G'day legends, it seems like we have gone from no news at all over the last 3 weeks to there being enough news for me to be able to make 2 videos a day, right? With Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval news just dropping on us like that. Yair Rodriguez is openly ducking Diego Lopez. What a goddamn coward. There is just so much to cover. The sport is alive again, boys. We are so back. But I wanted to break this particular topic down for us, okay? Because I heard Guru's reaction to the UFC 316 post-fight presser. Good on you, Guru. I got there first, but that's alright. That's the way the game works sometimes, mate. I'm just playing, mate. I'm just playing. But I heard Guru's reaction to the UFC 316 post-fight presser, and he's laughing about how Francis Ngannou isn't ever coming back, right? And Jon Jones is out there, and he's calling out Francis Ngannou because Jon Jones knows that Francis Ngannou is never coming back. And I just want to say right now, hold up, everyone. Because as of recording this video, as you know, as you're watching it today, it's June 2025, and I believe that Francis Ngannou could be back in the UFC by International Fight Week 2026. Jon Jones is 38 years old. I am going to break all of that down in today's video. Let's get right into it, shall we? How does Francis Ngannou have a path back to the UFC? It's a very believable, doable path, and I do think the way that the UFC storyline seems to be going right now, the pieces on the chessboard do seem to be moving that way. Let us start off at the beginning. This dropped on June 7th, right? Thank you, Championship Rounds, for surmising this for us. June 7th, via Championship Rounds, via Francis Ngannou's coach, right? Francis Ngannou is open to returning to the UFC, says his head coach. Enough time has passed. I would love to see them mend the fences and get back to competing in the UFC 100%. Francis would be open to a UFC return. I think it's more about the business. Now, the reason that everyone's laughing at this is because Dana White openly hates Francis Ngannou. Openly hates Francis Ngannou. Like, this is not a secret at all that Dana White doesn't think that Francis Ngannou is a very good guy, and Francis Ngannou has got another fight left on his PFL contract. It is just funny now, though, as well, like, now that Francis is on his last fight of the PFL contract, now they're willing to start talking about coming back to the UFC. I don't believe that he has established a whole new league in PFL Africa. I think they might be doing one show in Africa this year, although I also heard that that might be getting cancelled as well because it's just too hard to manage a show down there. So the whole, like, Francis becoming the CEO of PFL Africa didn't seem to fall through. If you've been keeping up, PFL has got 5 lawsuits going on right now with all of its major sponsors because they haven't been paying their bills. So I believe that the PFL won't even be in business in a couple of years. And again, Francis worked with the PFL to make sure that the fighters got long-term healthcare. I don't know how the fighters are going to get long-term healthcare if the PFL is going to be bankrupt by 2030. But looks like Francis Ngannou is absolutely pumped the PFL for everything that it's bloody worth, and now he's willing to run back to the UFC, where there's actually, some financial value in being a fighter, how evil the UFC are. Now, of course, the moment that Francis Ngannou, this is also June 7th, as you can see, the moment that Francis Ngannou said that he was willing to come running back to the UFC, Jon Jones instantly got on Twitter. Jon Jones instantly was like, and now I'm interested. Now I'm interested in a fight, a clash of champions, not just about hype. And why is Jon Jones doing this? Because Jon Jones, like MMA Guru, like so many people in the MMA community, I listened to Guru's video today, so it's fresh on my head, but like so many people in the MMA community, don't believe there's any chance at all that Francis Ngannou can come back to the UFC. So rather than just getting in there and fighting Jon Jones, rather than getting in there and fighting Tom Aspinall, now Jon Jones is like, oh yeah, I'll take this fight, right? Just another reason to add on to the list that Jon Jones is a goddamn duck, yeah? Jon Jones is a steroid-abusing, wife-beating, eye-poking, ducking cheater of the sport, and this is a classic I want to look like a tough guy without actually being a tough guy, right? This is what he is doing here. He's like, oh man, I'd love to fight Francis Ngannou, even though you could have fought Francis Ngannou already, John. Yeah, I don't know how many people remember the year 2020 when Francis knocked out Big Steepy, and all of a sudden Jon Jones just needed more time to really make sure that he was ready to come to heavyweight. And then when he did come to heavyweight, he looked like me after just weeks and weeks of sucking down beers and eating burgers. And he came back as a ripped heavyweight apparently when it was just a giant beer gut. That was 3 years of bulking up. And ever since then, he's gone to lose the weight and come in leaner at heavyweight because it was just a beer gut. But that's neither here nor there, right? So, you got John Jones openly ducking Francis Ngannou. And now, at UFC 316, Dana White gets asked about it. Just to cap this off, Dana White gets asked about it. Dana White pretty much laughs the idea off. Let's check that out.
John showed in the Francis Ngannou fight, like, there was some tweets going back and forth. What would happen if he came to you and says, like, I'll fight, but I won't fight Aspinall, I would fight Ngannou? Would you even be interested in that or no?
I don't have Ngannou under contract, and Aspinall's the guy.
Right. If you were put in the position, would you maybe try to get Ngannou back under contract or no?
Probably not.
How much interest, John?
So it's famously been put out there, right? Dana White hates Francis Ngannou. They did not have a very good business relationship with each other at all. So there are all the pieces on the table that everybody is seeing. This is where things get interesting, right? This is where I start to see things get interesting. Why am I making this video, my fellow MMA degenerates? Because I believe 100% in my soul that Dana White will be leaving the UFC very, very well. Now, I could go through all the reasons. Very, very well? Very, very soon. Very, very soon. Like, at the end of this year. Like, once the new broadcasting deal is done and dusted, the ink is dry, and we get our first event under the new broadcasting deal, which I think there is also a good chance it's going to be back to ESPN. But I think that's the last thing for Dana White to do. Now, I could give you all the reasons why. All the reasons why. But I couldn't surmise it better than the guys over at MMA On Point. So go over to MMA On Point's video if you're really interested in a detailed reason as to why Dana White would be leaving the UFC by the end of this year, and go and check that video out. It's a damn good video and it breaks it down really nicely. But also, in my eyes, as someone who is a small business owner and also someone that has done management for teams as well and helped upscale teams and move teams on to different areas back when I was doing sales, I'm seeing a lot of things here in the business world, a lot of moves that Dana is making that I recognize as someone from upper management moving out of the business and moving on to something else, right? The way that the UFC is being run in 2025, where the fighters are jumping up and down in the cage and they're saying thank you to Hunter Campbell more and more often, suggests to me that Hunter Campbell is the one doing the negotiations with the fighters, which are a lot of people who might have watched the Roku series or have just been clued on to certain fighter interviews are noticing more and more, right? The way that the press conferences are being handled. It's being handled more by John Anik and the Australian bloke that handles some of the post-fight press conferences. The way that the production has been done has been turned into a complete copy and paste method. It's no longer Dana White going onto late night TV shows. It's very rare for Dana White to be actually out there promoting a fighter. There's a lot of things that have happened with the UFC that have turned it into a production company that can just be plug and played, copied and pasted, and everyone has sort of got their roles. The Contender Series brings in new people. Sean Shelby, Hunter Campbell, and the other matchmakers look after everything. Hunter Campbell does the real tight, high-level negotiations. You know, it's just very obvious that Dana White is that manager who has already left the business, but still rocks up to the office every single day and just watches the way that things go down and gives people a little bit of feedback. Gives people a little bit of feedback before he finally bounces out of there and hands the thing over. Now, once that does happen, right, the UFC is going to be free of Dana White's ego, because I think Dana White will move in TKO from TKO UFC over to TKO boxing. So the UFC will be this completely new machine. Not new machine, but how you're seeing it run now in 2025. That's how it's going to be run without Dana White at all, which will essentially be Hunter Campbell's and the board's UFC. There's no ego there when it comes to that UFC and Francis Ngannou. There's no ego there for that at all. In fact, all that is just a business looking to make profit, right? Then on the other side of that, you've got heavyweight next year as well. Now, heavyweight is in a very interesting position that I'm sure you have noticed. It's essentially a fucking dead division, mate. Like, there's women's bantamweight, there's heavyweight. These are the wastelands of the UFC. You've got Tom Aspinall, Francis Ngannou, Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane, Jailton Almeida, Alexander Volkov, who has an L on his record recently to Gane, even though we all know that he won that fight. But let's say that Jailton Almeida loses his next fight just by happenstance. Who knows what happens? Let's say that John Jones ducks Tom Aspinall, never fights him. So you get Tom Aspinall versus Francis Ngannou, maybe in Paris. Maybe it gets updated to a Paris pay-per-view card. Could happen. We need a pay-per-view in September. I don't believe for a second that we're not getting a pay-per-view in September. I see UFC Paris, UFC Noche now, which is a fight night, and the fight night down in Perth. Any one of them could be upgraded to a pay-per-view at any moment. Look out for that. But we are essentially 2 fights away from the UFC heavyweight division being a barren wasteland. So you've got that looking down the pipeline as well. Pay attention now. You've got Dana White leaving the UFC and the UFC just being a 100% business with no Dana White ego down the pipeline 12 months away. You've got heavyweight being a barren wasteland down the pipeline 12 months away. Francis Ngannou has got 1 fight left on his PFL contract. They usually do a big show in November, the PFL. PFL versus Bellator. PFL Championship Series. They seem to do their big show in November. That seems to be when the PFL launches their nuke of a pay-per-view, their $10,000 pay-per-view bomb. $10,000, their 10,000 click pay-per-view bomb. Last time they did a pay-per-view, got 10,000 sales. Just phenomenal numbers from the PFL. But they're going to run Francis Ngannou again. It's June now. Between June and June 2026, they're going to run Francis Ngannou again, or Francis will start screaming that he wants to be released from his contract. So you have got 1 fight left on Francis's PFL contract, probably going to be in November, probably. Again, UFC, Dana White will be gone, heavyweight will be a barren wasteland. That's 3 pieces right there. 3 pieces that you need on the storyline for Francis Ngannou to be that big ticket item that the UFC are looking for as a free agent to get him back over to the UFC. The question is, how much are they going to be willing to pay him? How much is Francis going to be able to negotiate for now that he's a free agent and earned $30 million with his boxing PFL fights? Who knows? But this idea that it's completely impossible for Francis Ngannou to ever come back to the UFC, I just disagree with I disagree with that completely. I think it's very likely that you see Francis rolling around as a free agent in the MMA world, stirring up noise on MMA Twitter. I think it's very likely that you see the UFC heavyweight division being a barren wasteland, and there's a super fight right there. And I think if that scenario happens, you won't be hearing fucking anything from John Jones. Don't expect John Jones to be involved in those conversations at all. He will be crickets. He'll be saying, I'm retired now. I offered to fight Francis. We couldn't make it happen. He didn't want to fight me. I'm retired now. Best of luck to him, you know? Here today, gone tomorrow. I've built my legacy. Hey, Francis, why don't you try and defend it 14 times while I hide under the octagon from USADA? Could go on and on and on about John Jones. Could talk for 24 hours straight about John Jones. But it is what it is. But there you go. That's how I see it being possible for Francis Ngannou being able to come back to the UFC by 2026 next year. Let me know what you think about that down there in the comments. If this is your first time here, g'day! Welcome, my name's Dougie. I make an MMA video every single day of the week, and I try and go live at least 3 times a week. If you want to know when all that happens, you hit the subscription button down there and the notification bell so you know when the videos drop and you know when I go live. The comments, we've done that one, Doug. Move on. Next thing, leave a like if you can't be bothered leaving a comment, you bloody legends. And if you're one of the paying members of the channel, thank you so much. If you're one of the paying, I am stumbling over my words today so badly. This is why I can never be a professional YouTuber. I can't talk good. If you're one of the paying members of the channel, thank you so much. Your names are up on the next slide. And until then, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.